We had, I think, oh, good. We're being recorded, yay. We have almost 60 people, I think, signed up. But so everyone knows who's listening, we do record these. So if for some reason you want to see it again, and when we get our act together in about a week and it's edited, we try to send it out. Because sometimes people who have registered don't get on, either they forgot or they, weren't able to. So I'm just letting you know. We seem to have a significant drop off from registrations and attendees. I don't mean like huge, but about 10%, sometimes 15. So it just seems to be a phenomenon. There's so much going on online these days.
Yeah, well, I know I have a couple of people who purchased the wines because they wanted to make sure they got them and registered, but won't be able to join today. So I know at least 3 or 4 people that won't be able to join today. So
hi, Mike Pfeiffer. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Madeline.
Do you have any of the wines in front of you, or are you?
I just raced home, so the white is in the freezer.
Oh, good. Actually, to be honest with you, I poured mine a while ago, and it needs air.
And okay. I think it's better a bit warmer. I put it in our cooler, and it's probably sitting at about 50 or 52 degrees right now, and that's it's really nice at that time.
Mine's inching around cellar temperature, and it's better. It really tastes to me as tight as young Chablis.
Well, I literally just walked in, and so a couple minutes in the freezer, we're going to pull it out.
Won't hurt it.
Nope.
I still haven't figured out how to do this outside, and I have a big backyard, but a lot of dogs in my neighborhood. So maybe that's not a good idea. And we're waiting for Christian, who is traveling with his family in Western Sicily. At least he was yesterday. And we had a terrific connection on his wife's iPad, I think. So hopefully, well, I think we can talk about Etna, but we sure won't be able to talk about it in the depth, right, Antoine and Patrick, that Christian could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, you have the expertise of having been there. We deal with a lot of the wines, but I've never actually set foot on Etna, so I could never call
it's just that, staggeringly gorgeous, barren landscape. But what I really wanted him to talk about, and I don't mind everyone's listening to his chat, is evidently their diurnal swings are significantly larger than Argentina. I mean, they're massive diurnal swings, nighttime to daytime temperatures. Really? And also they have, they're Sicily, right? But they harvest routinely in mid to late October. So they have a very long growing season. And what I can't speak to whatsoever, other than the fact that, these wines are planted on north-facing slopes, is, the particularities of the individual, the differences in the volcanic soils. Marco Degrazia keeps comparing it on the website to Burgundy for that reason, because it's volcanic spill, but it's spilling different things. So how it degrades, will determine whether it's rocks or ash or, volcanic sand or a combination of such. I sound good, but I don't know. I don't know the particularities. It's just 4 o'clock, everyone. Hello, we're going to give it a few more minutes, though we've got 39 people on. Fantastic.
Up to 40. I don't see Christian yet, though.
I don't either. I did resend him the link.
Okay.
You guys want to keep your eye on your phone in case he emails one of us saying that he doesn't have internet access wherever he is.
Sure.
I'm going to retaste the red. Actually, while we're waiting and everyone's on screen, maybe I'll show all of the wines, which include those in Chicago. And I just swallowed a little Nerello Mascalese because, right? So, hold on. I can.
Because absolutely. I mean, it is Saturday after all. I know it's
It
early.
is Saturday after all, and I have to leave you for a moment because my PowerPoint's not up for some reason. Ah, there it is. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
There's Christian.
Good, yay!
Yay! Hello.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
You were perfectly on time.
I had some troubles with the registration, but yeah, it worked.
Okay, great. And I'm looking at the chat room. If you open one bottle, you have all three. Ah, and this is private, so I won't say who it is. Which one should I try today? I would say, given that we're in the middle of summer, the Rosado is probably not a bad idea. And it's not your basic dry rosé by anybody's measure. And we did, I don't know if we posted the Riesling tasting, but we have recorded it. I think we're at over 40 people, so we can officially start. Does that sound good to everyone?
I think so.
And we've got myself, hi everybody, Madeline from Plum Market, and
I'm Patrick from Reserve Wine and Food in Grand Rapids.
and we have Antoine, where are you?
I'm back.
Okay, you're back, good.
Antoine Prescott from Little Guy Wine and Spirits. We are the importer.
That directly imports Terre Nere. And most importantly, we have our friend Christian. Where are you, Christian?
I'm in the middle of Sicily in Castelvetrano, which is a very, very hot location. In hot meaning which is very, very hot. It's 35 degrees at 10 p.m. In the evening. So it's, yeah.
I hope you have a fan, because I have one aiming at me, and we're not nearly that hot here in Michigan, but we also have guests. We have guests from Metro Detroit, notably the Bloomfields in Ann Arbor. We have guests from Grand Rapids at the Reserve Wine and Food. And we have guests from Plum also in Chicago at our Old Town store. And we have Christian in Sicily. So how cool is that? And we're going to spend about an hour. If we run over, I promise we'll cover all the wines. But just to do a little bit of housekeeping, you don't mind if I take that ball, Patrick, do you?
No, go ahead.
Well, first of all, wild times continue, yes. And I think all of us should raise a glass to each other as we navigate, without much of a compass. We're all being true to our best sensibilities, I think. And I love these because they bring us together, don't you?
Absolutely. I think it's a unique opportunity that we've made out of a strange time in our lives. So.
By anybody's measure. Actually, we probably are enjoying the company of many people who were on last week, because Patrick and I just decided to collaborate 2 weeks in a row.
We're having fun with it, Like you said, it feels like we're distant siblings now.
Yeah, not even so distant anymore.
Distant physically, yeah.
I'm a sister from a different mother. Does that follow that phrase, brother from a different mother? So, and Greek, Irish, what's the difference?
Yeah, close enough.
Ireland, it's beautiful, and it has beautiful remote beauty, though covered in green, which is just staggering. What we're going to do is celebrate the wines that just came into Michigan from Terre Nere and have been on hand in Chicago for some time. And I don't know if any of our Chicago team is on because they're working. But we're going to actually work our way through about 5 wines, because there are 3 in Michigan, well, 5 for sure, 3 in Michigan and 2 in Chicago. So the wine list is a little different. And I think what I'll do as we keep talking a little bit of intro is, hold on. I keep losing my PowerPoint for some reason, so bear with me here a second. We're going to rely on Christian heavily to share his experience and his heart with us because he's living there. And he's, Christian, I didn't get your bio, but you are working as the global marketing director for Terre Nere, are you not? Is that the
Correct.
case? Yes.
Correct. Yes.
So, but oops, I have this back. For some reason, your website keeps coming up, which isn't a bad thing. You know, maybe I'll just keep it up for a minute because it keeps flipping through beautiful shots. Hold on a second. See, I told you I keep trying to get good at this. There are your shots, and I keep failing at it. So we do have different wines. Here we go. Hold on. Slideshow from the beginning. I just wanted to chatter while you get a little bit of landscape. This is just the website, by the way, if you haven't visited the Tenuta delle Terre Nere website, I got to tell you, Christian, it's staggering, both visually and the content. And I didn't know Marco was that poetic, unless that's you.
Oh no, it's Marco. It's Marco stuff. He's
When
very poetic. He has
when he compare the reason he compared Nerello, he said, to Burgundy is because it's made with either tender fingers or limber fingers or something like that. And I thought,
yeah.
And I just I want you to have this landscape in your mindset because it's just so special. This was from my hotel. And I'm from Greece, so this kind of, I guess you would call barren beauty, really speaks to my heart. But that said, I'm going to pull up all the wines so you can look at them for a moment. And we did make a change, Christian. The red they're having, you can see it in Chicago, is the Santo Spirito. And we can put them in any order that we want. But everyone's looking at this.
Ma'am, I think we're still on the website.
What's that?
I can still see the website. I don't know what everyone else can see.
Oh, really? You can still see the website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The slideshow.
Oh, no. Okay. Hold on. All righty. Well, let me try again. Can you see it now?
There we go. Yep.
Yep.
Is that good? And but you need the slideshow, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the beginning. Can you see it now?
There we go. We're good.
Okay,
yeah.
So these are the shots I was trying to tell you. If you were looking at the website, you don't need these. These are the wines. If you had all 5 of them, I think this is the suggested order, unless I screwed up 4 and 5, Christian, I sort of punted.
No, that's perfect.
Great. Etna Bianco, Rosato, Rosso, and then Michigan has the Feudo di Mezzo, and Chicago has the Santo Spirito, and those are the beautiful levels. And so, Patrick, will you tell everyone why you fell in love with these wines? I fell in love because I went there, and then I tasted them, and that was the end of that, you know.
Well, so it's interesting. I fell in love with these wines by way of the whites because I have a huge affinity for white Burgundy. You know, those of you that know me know that I'm obsessed with white Burgundy. I got engaged in a Chardonnay vineyard in Burgundy. You know, that's like my last day on earth, you know, is good white Burgundy. But so I tasted these wines of Carricante, and there are some similarities, but there are also some differences. But the things that I love about really good white Burgundy are the intensity, the balance, the kind of simultaneously being like rich and round, but having like bright acidity. You know, people refer to it as tension in the wines. And so I discovered the cru whites of Terre Nere very briefly while I was at Baco in Metro Detroit. We didn't carry them there, but that's like where I was exposed to them. And then when I came to Reserve, luckily we had been carrying the wines for a little while at that point, and so we have good access to them. But it's through the whites, and then, you know, in learning about Etna at large, but specifically Terre Nere, you know, you start tasting the single vineyard reds, like the like the Spirito Santo, like the Pre-Phylloxera, Don Pepino. These wines are just so expressive, and it's interesting, you know, Madeline and I have talked about people comparing them to Burgundy or Barolo or things like that, and I think that's a little bit, while I think there's some appeal to that, because, you know, if you really like Burgundy, I'm sure you'll like these wines, or if you really like Barolo, you'll really like these wines, but there is some unique character as well that sets these wines apart. And so one of the reasons I really love them, you know, again, Etna in general, but specifically Terre Nere, who I believe to be one of the, like, you know, probably 2 or 3 best producers of Etna. That's maybe a bold statement.
I'm going to say they're the best producer.
Somebody can disagree if they want. Yeah, they're, but the wines are also kind of in the grand scheme of like highly collectible wine under the radar, and so they're very accessibly priced for what they are, and they're very, I think they're about to get really famous, and they are. You know, you see it among sommeliers. People are obsessing over these wines. And
I don't disagree with you whatsoever. I'm going to jump in there because I think this is, by the way, my first view of Etna from the boat. This is one of the reasons I fell in love with these wines, and this is another reason from the hotel. But I want to jump in. One thing I forgot to say, everyone is very well-manneredly muted. If you have a comment, you can unmute, especially when we're talking about the wines. We really want to know your feelings about them. If you have a question, you can put it on the chat, and we'll keep our eye on it. That said, I want to make one statement about Terre Nere specifically, and I've played with others Etna wines, absolutely, but this producer falls into my category of what I call an eeny meeny, meaning you could, you know, just not worry about what cru, what cuvee, red, white, rosé. You will never be disappointed. At least I haven't been when you pull a cork. And I do think, on the heels of Patrick's comment, especially Nerello, but probably Carricante too, and Christian will speak to this. I think we're just at the beginning of seeing what its potential is. And I find that, I'm only sorry, I'm probably not going to be around in 50 years, even if I take really good care of myself, to see what's going to happen with these grape varieties that are very specific. So I think we should actually bow out, or at least off to the side, and welcome Christian Liistro. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
Did I say it right? Right. Whose English is spectacular. He spent a significant amount of time in London. I trolled around online just for fun, and evidently you're into chess and gardening and history. Very cool. And who, you know, will, in a self-effacing fashion, call himself probably Marco Degrazia's right hand, but really is representing Terre Nere throughout the world at the moment. And we're thrilled you're with us, because, you know, to me, talking about Etna, even if you've been there, which I've been lucky enough to be, and I hopefully will go back and, just like I told you, for a week in the winter, plant me anywhere there and I'd be a happy girl. But I think someone who actually lives there is, you know, going to make it quadro-dimensional. I don't think you can talk about Etna just intellectually. So thank you for joining us at, you know, 10:15 p.m. So hopefully your wife and kids are sleeping, but if not, they can join us. And I think what I'll do is probably flip to your pictures. We're thrilled to have you with us. Thank you, Christian.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now we have Spanish times here in Sicily, so they just started eating, so it's fine. So they should be
at
busy
10 p.m. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Spanish times. That's part of the legacy we still have here in Sicily. Many roads, many words from the dialects just stem from the Spanish legacy. Going back to the Etna, you know, the Etna is one of those things that for a Sicilian, you kind of used to have it, and when you have it, it's difficult to appreciate it fully. And this is why many times the history of wine in Sicily has been made by non-Sicilians. Marsala was made famous by the Brits. Carlo Auner, which is from the northern Italy, made famous the Malvasia from the Lipari. And I don't think it's a bold statement, but Marc de Grazia made famous Etna worldwide. Now, it's meeting Marco. It's as Madeleine said, it's something very intellectually challenging.
Where did you meet him?
I had a wine club in London while I was living. My passion and my real job was something completely different, because I used to work in asset management. But I had the passion of wine since I was 18. But then divergent views on the future from my family pushed me to finance rather than to restaurants.
But you were born in Sicily, correct?
Yes, I'm from Syracuse. So I had always this passion on the side, and I created a wine club while I was living in London, and to bring the producers to to the people really drinking wine and enjoying the wine, and that's how I met Marco. So I went to the estate 3 years before I started working with him, and to know better, actually my region. And since I heard that the work he was doing on the Etna was incredibly new, and I heard this comparison with Burgundy, which sound kind of
arrogant? I don't know.
But actually it was a great intuition. It was a great intuition from someone who had a clear vision of a region, a wine region that used to be very famous in the old times, because most of the wine in Sicily was produced on the Etna, but collapsed. Its glory collapsed after the war, because there were emigration to the US, to Australia, to northern Italy, and then there was poverty. So most of the vineyards were just abandoned. And when he, randomly he happened to be on the Etna, he just fell in love with the environment, with the soil, tasting the wines from the farmers. And
now, at this point, did Marco and his brother, did they have their import company at this point?
Yeah. Marco started the importing company, the Grazia Selection, in the early 80s, importing mainly Barolo and Barbaresco. And that's how Marco became quite famous, making, actually, this might be a bold statement, about making Barolo worldwide famous. With the new,
nobody's going to disagree with you, so go ahead.
But anyhow, this was a sign of a man of visions. He had this vision with Barolo, and he made this with the Etna 20 years before. Because if you think about the Etna 20 years ago, even 10 years ago maybe, no one ever heard of the Etna on the wine radar. It was completely an unknown wine region.
Can everyone see the map? Did I succeed in sharing it?
Yep, it's there.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, and that's where we are. So if you can go to the next one. So the volcano is actually quite big, because it's 60 kilometers in diameter. But it's funny to think that the first volcano that came up from the sea was in Acitrezza, so was on the sea. So after many cataclysms and earthquakes, the volcano actually walked north, and now it's close to Taormina. So the last one was actually quite some millions of years ago. and moved the volcano 10 kilometers north. So the appellation goes, it's the green area that you can see is like a crescent moon, and it goes from Randazzo, which is on the northwestern side of
here it
the
is.
appellation.
There it is, right up here, right?
Yes, to Biancavilla. So the appellation is incredibly varied in terms of everything: soils, climate. Imagine that there are within just the appellation 120 different weather patterns just within the appellation. So the climate change basically from parcel to parcel almost. And this is because the Etna is an active volcano, and so there are the clouds, the snow influencing a lot, each specific. So gathering all this evidence, just Marco had the gut feeling that Etna was really comparable to Burgundy, and the style of his wines always have looked for something that shows how siblings they are. When Marco came, in fact, the first vineyard is the one that you saw covered in snow in the Terre Nere website. That's Guardiola. Guardiola is 1,000 meters high, covered in snow 3 months every year. And
well, that's the one that's terraced, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very narrow terrace. At the time he bought this vineyard, 95 years old vines, he only spent 10,000 euros. Can you imagine? For an hectare, 1.09 hectares. And now this is worth more than 400K. So the increase in value in the land, in the vineyards, has been mesmerizing, incredible. But the fact is that the northern area has developed much more than all the other parts.
So this is where all the crews that you guys use are located, correct, in the north?
This is yes, where most of we have 50 hectares, and 44 are actually on the northern side. So if you go back the slide on the yes, thank you. So I was mentioning in our pre-meeting that knowing on the label where the Etna is coming from, where the wine is coming from, tells you a lot about the quality of the wine you have in the bottle without even tasting it. So not just Terre Nere, but the most important producers of Etna actually have their soils, they have their parcels on the northern side. The northern side is like the Côte d'Or of the Etna. 95% roughly of the vineyards are with Nerello Mascalese, which is the main red grape varietal, and only 5% is Carricante, which is very, very rare.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but north-facing slopes also have the cunning ability to moderate heat spikes. Though, from what I understand, you have at this area, you have nighttime, daytime swings that are larger than Mendoza, which is just amazing. I mean, we're talking 50 degrees Fahrenheit difference between daytime and nighttime temperatures.
That's correct. Wow. That's correct. And just, incidentally, Mendoza is where Marco had his other winery in Argentina.
I didn't know that. Oh, my ears are working. Good to know.
You might have heard, because the brand is still in commerce. It's Altos Las Hormigas.
So he's a partner in that?
He used to be a partner in making the wine, and then he left just before coming to the Etna.
I'm going to make us talk about the Bianco just briefly, because some people might be drinking it. If you don't mind, Christian.
Sure. So and in fact, I was just going on the eastern side, because the eastern side is mostly renowned for the whites, so for the Bianco. Yeah. So here, the proportion is the opposite. 90% it's Carricante vineyards or white varietals. So we source all the Carricante from our vineyards in the northern side, and 30% of the blend from the eastern side and the southern side. And this is because the character of the whites is completely different. On the northern side, the whites tend to be with very large shoulders, very complex. On the eastern side, the Carricante tends to be more linear, more slender. It's like a laser. It's very precise.
So everyone,
While on
this is a blend of 4 grapes, but dominantly Carricante, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
While the southern side has the mellow and luscious and gentle approach, giving the sun that gets from the southern side. So the Bianco you're drinking, it's a 70-30. So 30% is a field blend and 10% of the field blend is Catarratto. So Marco created this because Carricante is a very, very, very difficult grape to tender in the vineyard and to take care in the cellar, and tends to be it almost behaves like a red. It tends to be very close, very shy at the beginning, and then when it warms up, just like almost similar to Chardonnay, you know, that all the flavors come up and starts to be very, very large. So
do you mind if Patrick, our white Burgundy loving friend, describes it to everyone, what he perceives? Because all I can think of is young Chablis and a Assyrtiko from Santorini. Those are the 2 things.
It's fitting because last week we tasted some Assyrtiko and compared it to young white Burgundy. So, I mean, one of the things that really strikes me about this wine that I think separates it from Burgundy is there's a very like savory saline component, which would take you down that kind of road of Assyrtiko. But it's got, you know, fruit wise, it's very similar to Chardonnay in that it is driven by this very tart kind of green apple skin, and then like ripe but sour lemon, you know, this lemon juice, especially on the palate, you know, it smells like it's going to be a bit riper than it is when it tastes. It smells like it's very generous, and then there is still some of that generosity on the palate, but it's very, very like tart and crisp. But then there's singing minerality. It's got a little bit of floral, like this kind of like white floral lily.
Yeah, like lemon blossom or something like that. And I think this stuff is age-worthy. I think you could forget about this for a few years and not have a heart attack, and you would open it and it would go, hi, I have developed layers and my acidity is softer.
It's really good. That's for sure. And it's, I'm actually curious, because I know that Marco's not afraid to use some oak on the cru whites. Is there any barrel treatment to this? I think
no, actually,
but
no, actually, there is no barrel on this. But that kind of sensation you feel, it's because we do the malolactic fermentation on the whites.
You do have mellow or not? You do?
Yeah, we do. And that's that kind of mellow, very balanced, nutty sensation that you have that almost recalls barrel treatment.
Yeah.
The cruise instead, they go into large 10 hectoliters, medium toasted, second passage oak. It's an Austrian oak, so it's very, very mild, but tends to produce quite complex wines.
Oh, they're just glorious, the white crus, if you run into them. But I have to read you, because I was telling Christian, I didn't know Marco was just such a beautifully crazed poet. He says with bottle age, I think he says this wine specifically is loveliness turned thoughtful. So I thought, oh, good. You know, we can be thoughtful in a couple of years. But anyway, I want to comment on the Etna Bianco if you have it. If you're eating anything, it will erase a little bit of that acidity, but the salinity, to your point, Patrick, is just spectacular. And I think any sort of mezze from the southern peasant Mediterranean, which I think is the best part, will probably work well. Anyone want to speak up who's having it? No, you're also well-mannered. You need to drink a little more wine. Shall we go back to your map and you can keep telling us?
Yep,
what you're-
sure.
Yes, here
Sure.
we go. Okay, thank you.
So what's important is that from the northern side come almost all the Nerello Mascalese we bottle. So we have a little bit of Cappuccio, and just to mention, because there are 3 types of Nerello which are allowed on the Etna. To be Etna DOC, you need to put in the bottle at least 80% of Nerello Mascalese. Now, if you taste an Etna Rosso from the south, this will taste more exotic compared to the northern relative, because there is simply more sugar, and they normally add more Cappuccio sugar from, of course, not added, but sugar from the sun. In fact, the appellation goes up by 100 meters in the southern side because there is way too much sun. And so, you have babos which are extremely high.
But he's talking about the reds now, just so nobody gets confused.
Yes, yes.
Nerello Mascalese
Yes.
or Cappuccio, he's talking about reds, and when he's talking about Carricante and Catarratto, he's talking about whites. Forgive me for overstating the obvious.
Correct. I was talking about the reds because there is, it's very interesting understanding how Marco got on the Rosato. We have these 3 different varieties of Nerello, and I must say that we have the Cappuccio, which is kind of like the Beaujolais Nouveau when it's vinified. It tends to be very light, very fresh, extremely fruity. The Mascalese, which is more like the Pinot Noir, and the Mantellato, which is a way in between, but has been very much neglected. Marco wants to use more and more the Mantellato. In fact, we're planting more Mantellato in these times.
I hadn't even heard of it. This is news to me. Wow. Mantellato?
Yes, Mantellato, yes. Because compared to the Mascalese, has a nice spicy character, which in his vision will make the rosé very, very, very much interesting. Now the rosé comes from different parcels on the northern side. So Calderara, Moganazzi, and Santo Spirito.
You need to tell us about these. I'm dying for you to tell us about these because you talked about it a little bit, and I'm sorry to pivot, but the violet.
Yes.
Marks are a very specific terroir. Do you mind going to that? Because I don't want to leave this map without talking.
Sure. Can you make it larger or give me zoom in?
I don't think I can. I think.
Okay. So if you see on the map there are.
I'm going to try to make it larger. So you start talking about it and give me a minute.
Yep.
Hopefully I won't screw it up completely, but keep talking. Okay.
So this map that you see, it's the geological map of the Etna. So one of the most interesting characteristics of a volcano and is a lava flow is that they overlap over time, and so they create very little pockets, of completely different soils. Now, some of these pockets are very, very, very old. They belong to 70,000 years to the history of the pre-existent volcano that used to be there before the Etna, whose name was elliptic. So, and that's why on the bottle of Calderara Sottana in San Lorenzo, you find Grande Terroir Ellittico. So on the pink spots are the most ancient soil that you can have on the Etna, where you can plant vines. So these soils are, in the appellation, are unique on the northern side to Calderara Sottana and to San Lorenzo, and on the eastern side to a small piece near Milo, which is called Punta Lazzo. Now, why these are so special? So the first reason is that they are basically 45,000 years older from the second oldest. So all the other soils on the Etna, they roughly go from 50,000 years old younger. So there is 45,000 years of difference between these soils and the other soils. And the second reason, which is very, very, very important, is that these soils are the only ones that contain limestone. Very small particles of limestones, which are able to gather the humidity from the temperature difference between night and day and release it back to the plants during the summer. And this is extremely important, especially for the young vines, which benefit a lot. And so with this water given back to the plants, even during periods of drought, which, unfortunately they start being more and more frequent due to the climate change. Here in the Etna rains a lot, but in the last period, in the last 2 years, it's raining less and less. And this characteristic is very important for the young vines to make fine grapes.
Well,
and
you
when the plant
you bring up, and I'm just interrupting to get this home because it's so revelatory to me that when you say volcanic soil, this is not a generic thing we're talking about, because the spill is going to, it spills different geological aspects, and then it degrades, correct, at different rates in different places. So sometimes it can be softer, more ashy, more porous, and other times not. And thank you for letting my enthusiasm interrupt you, but keep going, and let's talk about the Rosato too, for those people who have it. Mm-hmm.
So the Rosato is very peculiar because it's made with these three parcels, which has been specifically selected by Marco on these soils, and with a very specific U shape, where basically the ratio between juice and skins is heavily tilted towards the juice. So straight from the start, we know that those are going to be for the Rosato.
But this is all Nerello Mascalese, correct? It's 100%.
Yes, correct. 100%. Correct. But there is a secret recipe in making the Rosato, because the Rosato is by far for us the most difficult wine to produce. It's been, now I'll tell you an anecdote, because the Rosato's been produced just very, very randomly, because Marco's daughter, Elena, was in her pink period. So she was roughly 3 years old, and she wanted a pink wine. And in fact, if you come to Terre Nere, you'll see the cellar of the estate, it's all pink.
And her name is Elena, correct?
Elena. So, and she wanted a pink wine, and Marco, I don't have pink wine, I just make red wine and white wine. And in that very moment, a truck loaded with grapes, red grapes, came on the door. And Marco said, okay, then let's make the rosé. So he started, putting his efforts in making the rosé, but it was extremely difficult to the first vintage, because the rosé, just to tell it with Marco's words, it has to be the soul of a white wine, but the body of a red wine. You walk on a very fine line, because if you fall on one side, you go towards a tutti frutti kind of rosé. If you fall on the other side, you go towards an acidic punch. So it's really, you have to walk really, really careful. And the secret of the rosé, I'm gonna tell you, is that we're doing the Rosato with the mallow. So
using malolactic. So just
Yes.
to remind everyone, because it drives me nuts when my colleagues who are, with no false modesty, smarter than I am, use technical information that I can't remember. So mallow is the conversion of what? A malic or tart acidity into lactic or buttery acidity. It changes the mouthfeel. And in a white wine, it will actually influence the fragrance. Forgive me for interrupting, because I find this a remarkably sophisticated rosé. I mean, again, I think this baby can handle bottle age. Do you think I'm wrong?
Well, if I can jump in too, I think that it has a lot of the talk, especially to further the point of like kind of straddling that line between a white wine and a red wine. It has a lot of the like more delicate aromatics of Nerello as a red grape. It's got this like rosy florality, even into like tart red cherries, and this, the fruit profile I find is very expressive of the red grape, and then the structurally it's very similar to the whites in that it has that tension, it has that salinity, and so it's really unique that way. One other thing I wanted to ask, because I've been lucky enough to taste these wines over the last several vintages. Is there a huge amount, because you talk about how difficult it is to produce these wines, is there a huge amount of vintage variation, from one vintage to the other? I see quite a difference between the 2019s and the 2018s. And not in a bad way, they show different character as different vintages do, but can you speak to the difference between vintages a little bit?
Yes, it's, I would say in a friend of Marco, which is a very, very famous vineyard in Burgundy, he used to say there is no vintage. There is just a different mood of the wine. Actually, the vintage, of course, have an influence, and as you said correctly, they show the different facets, of the wine corresponding to the different weather influence. So 2018 has been very.
It's spectacular with food. I mean, Marco says prosciutto and melon, but pigs and salami and olives. So
I'll tell you, most of the times we drink the rosé during the winter because it goes amazingly with the winter veggies. So it goes fantastic, with the artichokes, broccoli, cauliflowers, which are all food which is kind of difficult to pair wine with.
Madeline, that's what I was saying.
What's that? I mean, the man is after my own heart, because I saw that he likes to garden or pay attention to vegetables, and root vegetables, I think would be spectacular. But this wine is so friendly. I think you are actually single-handedly influencing dry rosé drinking on this tasting, because we don't have to wait till the summer to drink it. It is especially wine like this that's intentionally made. Can you tell us what we're looking at? Because this shot to me is mind-stopping.
Look, these. First, I want to just stop 1 second on a characteristic of the rosé, which makes it very, very interesting, and it is the fact that it's very. I wouldn't say it's a hazardous, but it's like champagne. It's a wine you can drink with almost any meal, because it's very complex. It's a gastronomic rosé. You can drink as an aperitif, but of course you can drink easily, for accompanying risottos or any kind of food you like. And for aging, look, 2 months ago we drank the 2008. Of course, it's not a fresh rosé, but it has, the body of the Nerello that comes out and stands, in a very, very beautiful way.
And it wasn't oxidized at all? I mean, this is aromatic as it warms up. How was the 08 aromatically?
It was like a prophet in a cave, it was like, very serious. It has lost the fun, and it's very, meditative kind of rosé. So it's something that, of course, has its oxidation on the go, but not too much or not that much that you can tell, okay, this wine is off. It was actually a mistake because we actually were in the dark, and Marco just pulled one bottle out of the fridge, and we were thinking it was 2018 and it was 2008. So that's how it goes. So it's no, it's beautiful. It's a very, very beautiful wine. As for this is Calderara, and this is where the estate is located. It's a piece that Marco bought in 2003. He renovated completely the affalmento that was there, and make the cellar. Now on this piece that you can see there, we microvinify 6 different parcels.
Oh, right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So
Are we
so
facing south?
are we facing north, because that's the Nebrodi mountain on the back. And we have 80 vinification vats for 29 parcels, where we vinify Nerello Mascalese, and 20 vats where we vinify Carricante. So we really micro vinify each parcel according to the soil, to the specific climate on the soil, and to the exposure of the soil. So even within the same parcel, it's a plain here that you have, but we have there is old vines, they go on a tank. Young vines, they go in another tank. There is a fatter soil, they go in another tank. There is a leaner soil, they go into another tank. Then there is the prephyloxera, goes on another tank. So this is how we really we reason, and this is during the winter. It would be so much easier to make everything in one tank and make a riserva, but that's not why Marco came on the Etna.
People from Chicago have the 2018 Etna Rosso before we get to the 2 crus, and that's we'll just imagine it if we're in Michigan. But can you speak to that? This is just glorious. I mean, how cold is winter here, Christian? Is it cold?
Yes, it can go down to minus 10 degrees Celsius.
Wow, Celsius.
Yes. So, and that's here we are at 700 meters of altitude. So and it's covered with roughly a meter of snow. So it's pretty cold during the winter. This is Feudo di Mezzo. So it's the Rosso. So 2 things on the serving temperature. So the Rosso and the Rosé, the Bianco and the Rosato should go quite chilled, but they like even the 12, 14 temperature degrees interval, because all the flavors came up nicely. If you keep it between 8 and 10, it's kind of close. It closes down. While the Rosso likes a lot the 14, 16 temperature degrees, and ideally during the summer we drink it at 15 degrees.
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that like it's somewhere between 55 and 60 Fahrenheit? We're the only damn country in the world that isn't using this, the metric system. But so we're talking, summer temperature, but I think you can drink Nerello a little bit warmer than red Burgundy. Also, I think you can go over, around 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
You can go even to 18, but during the winter, not during the summer. During the summer will kill you, the alcohol. So it's during the summer the red stays well on its 15 degrees, while during the winter 18 degrees. It's beautiful. And the Rosso is Nerello Mascalese, and there is a tiny bit of Cappuccio, which comes from the old vineyards, which are old vines, which are in the oldest vineyards, but it's like 1-2% on average, so it's just
So
non-influential.
the Etna Rosso, you are harvesting both young and older vineyards, correct? So this is the largest
Yes,
production of red, right?
yes. On paper, that's it. But the truth is that, for example, in Calderara, which is an elliptic, so a Grand Cru soil, we have 20 hectares, and we only produce 10,000 bottles of Calderara. So basically, 18 hectares of those vineyards go into the entry-level wine. So that's why you have a very high-level entry-level wine, because it's incredibly, it goes, you have vineyards of 80, 90 years old into the entry-level wine.
And I'm going to ask, I never talk price point, but I'm going to with this wine because it makes
Yep.
This is $20 in Chicago. Antoine, we didn't include this in the Michigan tasting, but if we were, is it line priced with the Bianco at 22? You need to unmute.
Yeah, unmute. Yes, the Rosso, Bianco, and Rosato, when we get them, and we'll talk about rarity and how lucky everybody is to be tasting these wines tonight.
Oops, I can't hear. Go ahead. Say again.
It is line priced.
It's line price. So do we have the Rosso in Michigan right now? If anyone's interested in getting it, can they ask at their local plum market and they can get some, or not yet?
There should be one case in each store, and that's it.
So you heard it here. If you want, and there's also a case available to Grand Rapids, right, Patrick? So if you want the Rosso, do you have the Rosso?
We actually only have 2 bottles left of 2017 Rosso, and that's all we have available in that regard. But we do have a couple of the other crus, and actually a couple of the 16s and 17s with a little bit of bottle age in the red. So.
But just staggering value. And I'm not holding you to that $20 price point, Patrick, but I mean, it is.
But that's the whole thing is I think these wines from across the board, it's going to be good to jump on them now because they're going to get more expensive and they're also going to last a long time. And so if you're at home and you're looking to lay a few bottles down for a few years, this will be one of your highest return wines for what you're paying for it, in my opinion. So,
and remember what I said about eeny meeny. Don't worry about vintage or any of that. You're just experiencing something that's dominantly an incredibly noble grape variety that's at the beginning of its trajectory in terms of showing us what it can do. This to me is like a Bourgogne Rouge with a little bit more grippy tannins, and we'll talk about that later, from a great producer. This is like having a great chef's hamburger, right? And they're still using dry aged, top-notch beef. It's still their hand. You're still at per se, and it's a stunning value. And if you
and going to that point, I mean, not worrying about vintage, not worrying about having the prestige of one of the cru wines, great producers make great wine, and vintage variants aside. And so I think that I don't know, I'm not as well versed in the specific difficulties of vintage to vintage at Terre Nere, but I've never had one that I've been like, man, they had a rough vintage this year. It's always been, this one's different than, the 18 is different than the 17, but they're still both so delicious. It's amazing.
To that point, and I'm going to remind us all, it's like a little before 5, and we have 2 crus to talk through. So I'm going to nudge Christian. I'm going to show my pictures, which are not as pretty as yours, but I'm so absurdly pleased that I was there and I wanted to share them. If you don't mind talking about the crus and just commenting on the pictures, if you feel like it, but more to give you a sense of what we have. Would that be okay with you?
Sure.
And before we move, though, from this, I have to, again, read one of Marco's comments. In terms of food and wine harmony, you got to put your seatbelt down for this one with the Etna Rosso. He says this wine is aristocratically liberal, meaning you can enjoy it with whatever you want to as long as it's properly cooked. That's a t-shirt, honestly, it is. So,
yes.
I think you're going to talk about the Feudo di Mezzo first, and then
yes.
Spirito.
So,
go for it.
so we have a 4 Premier Crus and 3 Grand Crus. So 2 of the Premier Crus, it's just Feudo di Mezzo and Santo Spirito. They actually are quite similar in terms of soil, but very, very different exposure. So you have Feudo di Mezzo, which is 600 meters of altitude. The soil it's a mix of ashes, so roughly 80%, and pebbles. And there is a part of it within the parcel. It's just a finger of a completely different lava flow, which
So
is
you
just
said
pure.
ash and pebbles, is that correct?
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
is all of it old vine, like it says here? Is all of it?
It's
European?
yes, it's 80 years old vines,
Mhm.
and most of them are very, very healthy. But there is a part of them on this finger which is very, very stony, which is much leaner, and it gives the Feudo di Mezzo a very, very precise character. We harvest Feudo di Mezzo between the 2nd and the 4th of October every single year. It's in a
That's
position.
amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a position that independently from any vintage. So 2018 has been very, very cold and a difficult vintage. 2017, 19, 16, great vintages, warm with an Indian summer. But it's Feudo di Mezzo has always been harvested during those 2 days. It's
This is
incredibly
comic relief,
precise.
by the way. This was a statue in the foyer of my hotel, and it sort of takes fecundity to a new level. So, forgive me for interrupting Feudo di Mezzo with that. But
And Feudo di Mezzo, it's a 600 meters of altitude. It's the lowest vineyard we have. Santo Spirito, instead, it's at 850 meters of altitude. It's similar to Feudo di Mezzo in terms of soil. The only difference is that it's basically purely ashes. And when I mean ashes, it's not sand, it's ashes, which is like talcum powder. So when you go walk in the vineyards in Santo Spirito, you just delve onto near the calf. You just go deep into the soil. So soft and so incredibly fine is the soil. And
did
in
everyone
fact,
hear the altitude? We're at like what? Maybe 2,000 feet above sea level, and some of these vineyards range up to 3,000. That's Mendoza, right?
Yeah, it's very, very high. But it has a very unique characteristic, Santo Spirito. It's basically like in a channel with different lava flows on each side, and this makes the soil, the area, like a container for ashes. All the ashes that fly south from the volcano, they just stay in Santo Spirito, and so you have very deep soils, incredibly rich. We green harvest, we trim 5 times every year, while in Calderara or in San Lorenzo, we do it 2 times. So the vegetation.
What Christian said, Christian, I'm interrupting because this is sommelier. When I heard about this is very anti-intuitive, because we always talk about rich soils not being good for vines, but you have volcanic soils that can be actually very rich, but also produce terrific minerality and complexity in the wine. But you do have to green harvest, correct?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
When green harvest, right?
Because otherwise you're gonna have a wine which is very similar to the Nero d'Avola, because it's the energy that gathers from the soil. It's incredibly strong. So the power gives to fruit, to the grapes, a lot of energy. You need to control this energy and to balance with the acidity that the altitude gives. And so the viticultures, and this is what really set us apart. The viticulture aspect, it's very, very important and in fact, we have 50 hectares and we have 42 people working in the fields. And it's basically almost one person per hectare.
And everyone, that's 2.5 acres. I mean, to have a person per hectare is like having, you know, a teacher for every, what, 1.5 to 2 students.
That's having almost a server per person at a restaurant, you know.
Right.
Yeah, correct.
Is
But
this Nerello Mascalese on this side with the bigger leaves?
Yes, and the other is Cappuccio. So, but this really, what you said, it really makes the difference, Patrick, because it's the people that has been working with us for more than 10 years. They know in the vineyard what they have to pick up. They know very, very clearly what is that, you know, the plant needs, and they are the first one to tell the agronomist, the enologist, what he has to do. So it's a kind of a bottom-up approach in the vineyard, but it's been proving very effective. And because each parcel has its own story, and you cannot just
Christian, can you tell us about the oak influence? Because there's a little bit of acceptable oak.
And so the vinification is the same throughout the reds. So the only difference is that the entry level has 2 more months in large oaks, but we have basically not a specific policy about the oaks. We know that they're gonna stay between 14 and 16 months, depends on the vintage. We have small barriques, we have the Tenuta, the Foudreau, we have different size of oaks from, you know, 225 liter important is that every 4 months the wine swaps. So what's in barriques goes what's in Tenuta goes in the Foudreau, and vice versa.
So Tenuta, everyone, is twice as.
And so there is no so the wine is neutral. Yes, it's 500 liters.
How much new oak?
So
how many grapes are new?
And this is made. It's just 5%.
Bravo, thank you. For not dominating the wine with too much oak, because I'm sitting here, I've been drinking the Tenuta de Mezzo for about an hour and a half now, slowly, and I wouldn't mind, Patrick or Antoine, can you weigh in, or Christian, on how would you describe Nerello to someone who hasn't experienced it? I don't want to be the big mouth here. Patrick, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'll take this one. I'll take a little bit, because, you know, we've talked about this a little bit. It gets compared to Burgundy, it gets compared to Nebbiolo or Barolo, and it's got some characteristics of both of those. You know, it has this like intoxicating perfume of Nebbiolo, but it also has this beautiful spice of really good Pinot Noir, and so you have some elements of that, and then you also have, again, this kind of, I would classify it as like black tea or dried leaves, pipe tobacco, something like that separates it from either of those and kind of ties those two elements together, making it similar to a lot of other great wines of the world, but also unique within that spectrum. It has a little bit of this, you know, apple skin, orange citrus. It has a little bit of this kind of Bing cherry, cinnamon spice, but it's the way these elements work together is so like beautiful. It's the word that I keep coming back to is just intoxicating. I could smell this for, you know, for hours.
Patrick and I were chatting before everyone got on, and I've been wondering every time when I was at the winery and they put out an array of Nerellos in front of us to taste, and I was wondering why, you know, we perceive, define, and I always listen to the wine very carefully, but the definitions didn't come to me quickly because these wines are so tightly furrowed in character, meaning they reveal themselves, you know, kind of magically and a little slowly when they feel like it, not unlike young, big deal red Burgundy. And also the tension on the palate. Antoine, you might find this fun. I just intellectualized this right before we got on this tasting. It's that gorgeous balance between acidity and tannin that frankly Sangiovese, specifically in this case Brunello, has, because the tannins are a little scratchier, but not Nebbiolo tannins. Do you mind weighing in on how you're perceiving?
No, I mean, I would totally agree. We, you know, I was first introduced to these wines 2008-ish with a previous importer when I was in the restaurant days. And that comparison to Burgundy and Nebbiolo, I think, works with everyone. But you know, for all the nerds out there, if you can use a Venn diagram, right? It's Burgundy, there's Pinot Noir, Nebbiolo, and then Nerello, and there's an overlap between each one, but they all have distinctive character, and that acidity and tannin balance is really what makes these wines. You know, they're ageable. You can easily throw some of the crus or even the entry level wines, you know, the village wines into your cellar and drink them down the road. But that balance between acid and tannin is what makes these so spectacular, because texturally on the palate, they hit every little spot that you could imagine would go, wow. But to Patrick's point, it's just sticking your nose in a glass like this. I mean, over and over and over again. Even in the first, you know, hour since we've been here, I opened an older bottle of one of the crus from my cellar, one of the red crus.
Oh, show off, you know.
Well, I'm sorry, you know. No, but this is, I had to open a bottle of this to be part of the tasting because, by the way, everyone who's on here, these wines are extremely rare in the grand scheme of things. Even the, you know, entry-level Bianco and Rosado and Rosso. If you see them, buy them because they will go extremely quickly. I think each of the Plum Market stores in Michigan got one case of rosé. There was a couple more that went to Reserve in Grand Rapids. When you see these, I mean, this is for us. I don't even taste these wines. I would have to go buy them from one of the stores and take them away from somebody who should be sitting on these tastings. So price to quality ratio, complexity. I mean, you know, being able to pair this with a multitude of different food, cuisine, whatever you eat, whether you eat vegan or all meat diet. I mean, you can find a spot for these in your kitchen, in your cellar, at your home. Or if you see them in a restaurant, go for it.
Well, to further that point, you know, Madeline brought up in our initial talks about this tasting doing Terre Nere, and I was a little bit hesitant because of quantity. You know, I was like, well, you know, some of these wines we don't get a lot of, and so the fact that we got enough wine to cover this tasting, and I believe, I mean, almost every bottle of the Feudo di Mezzo that came into the state is like headed toward this tasting, and so these wines are. I was blown away by the amount that we're allowed to get for tasting specifically. And then also talking about price to quality, you know, these cru wines for similar quality in Burgundy, you're paying 4 times the price.
And I think the Santo Spirito is $40 in Chicago, and the Feudo di Mezzo is $45 in Michigan. But I mean, you're talking about try to get Burgundies of this caliber anywhere under $50 a bottle. Christian, did we lose you? Are you there? Because we need you to describe the difference between Feudo di Mezzo and Santo Spirito. And I'm just showing how cool volcanic spill is, because I don't want to miss out.
Yeah, you said a very interesting thing, because you might not know that Nerello Mascalese is genetically related to Sangiovese. So it shows the same behavior, specifically in very warm vintages where it produced quercetin, and we had some quercetin issues in the 16 vintage. Now quercetin is a superfood, So it's the wine is great. Nonetheless, it has an aesthetic say problem.
What are we
But
talking about? I didn't hear you. We're talking about,
quercetin.
oh, like heat?
It's
Like
it's a protein that develops only in Sangiovese and in the Nerello Mascalese. Now we experimented this in 2016, and we corrected this buying a very expensive filter that makes this problem just memory. With the Santo Spirito and the Feudo di Mezzo, there is Marco would say the very same difference that you have between Clos de Vougeot and Chambol. So they have the same kind of intensity and lusciousness, but Santo Spirito has a very precise and vertical characteristic, while Feudo di Mezzo is much more rounded. So Feudo di Mezzo is like it's like this, like a student that has full marks, top grades in all the subjects. It's very round and perfect, which almost takes away the character. Santo Spirito instead is it's a lady dressed to kill. It's very sexy and appealing straight from the nose, and then the taste actually enhances what you feel with the nose.
This, by the way, is Marco. We've been talking about him. This is driving. What is this? Is this a Land Rover? I think so.
Yeah, I recognize the nose.
Talking about him so much that I thought it would be. And this is volcanic ash. He told us to roll up our windows, and he came to a screeching halt. So
and this is Santo Spirito, in fact.
Oh, no kidding! You even can recognize it from here.
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. And this is a dog, just because I thought he was cute. And so, this is him unlocking the new. You told me these vineyards that were new 3 years ago are now very lush, correct? And there's the irrigation.
Yeah. Yes. We had to, because again the climate change is impacting us quite severely. This year, in March, we are already without the snow. Normally, we have snow on the Etna up until July. And now in March, the snow is gone, and this has a big impact of course, in the water reservoirs and rivers down the Etna. So that's
it's so rocky that I almost fell over. I had to hold on to someone, and there are little baby vines that are perfectly happy growing it.
Yes, but it's you are on elliptic soil. So it seems rocky that nothing can grow, but then they are very, very nurtured by the ashes, which contains a lot of minerals. So basically, all the microelements that you normally spray, to enhance zinc, sulfur, it's already there. So you don't have to give anything to the plants. The plants, in fact, the Prephyloxera, where we have plants, the Prephyloxera vineyard, where we have plants which are over 250 years old, they keep producing a lot, and they just find whatever they need in the soil.
Are these white vines, Christian? These are white vines that are terraced?
This is in Calderara Sottana. This is the terrace of Calderara Sottana.
Is it Carricante? Is that what we're looking at?
This is Carricante, yes.
Carricante. Oh, I thought it was so beautiful.
Yes, these two. Yes, this is in Santo Spirito, actually. And this is Santo Spirito from above.
And tell us who this is. You just talked about the phylloxera.
This is Don Peppino. This was Don Peppino, because he passed to a better life 3 years ago. and was the man who taught all the secrets of Calderara to Marco. And just to tell you one anecdote, Marco bought Calderara in 2003, and Don Peppino, only after 3 years, told Marco that there was a Prefilloxera vineyard in Calderara.
3 years, he told him?
After 3 years, he was knowing him, because he could trust. After 3 years, he decided he could trust Marco. And so basically, Calderara first bottle was in 2003, and the Prefilloxera was first bottle was in 2006.
I've never tasted it. Is it glorious?
The Prefilloxera?
Yeah.
Wow. No, it's something unforgettable.
Here's Marco at the winery, and you told me this wall, which was made from volcanic rock, doesn't exist anymore, correct?
No, because we built a cellar there for where we have all the oaks, and this is very important because the estate is now certifying for sustainability, the whole estate, not just the wines, and so in order to save energy and the consumption of energy, we dug basically under the vineyard, and we made a cellar there, which allows us to save 30% of the energy bill, and on top of it, to insulate the cellar perfectly, we built a new tasting facility where you're welcome to come whenever you feel like dropping by, and taste the full range of our wines.
High on Etna, it takes a little while to get there, but we can definitely plot to stop. And I can't tell you how much I encourage everyone to visit. But I get to make people jealous, because this is me enjoying lunch on the veranda with Marco over here, and a career vegetarian passed on the tongue that was being passed around, but they also had some very nice vegetables that were going around. And who is this? Tell us about this guy, Christian.
This is Iano. This is Marco's brother that now is at the helm of the Degrazia selection, Marco Degrazia selection, so the distribution company, and is a very, very good guy. He's been in business with Marco. Marco is the brain, and Iano is the one that makes the facts. Marco has a lot of intuition and incredible entrepreneurial spirit. He has the spark to say it with Schumpeter, but Iano is the one that executes extremely well.
And he's got a lot of heart. And I want everyone to be really jealous, because I think Marco is eating an apricot, and I've probably had too much Nerello Mascalese. And this is going to be my next press picture. I've decided, because I was so happy on that veranda. Before, some people I know have to go, and some people are pulling away. But are there any parting shots you want to tell us about Nerello? And I actually want to ask who's listening, does anyone want to give us your impressions? Because we've been talking about Burgundies and Nebbiolo. We're searching for, something to compare these noble red wines to. Does anyone want to weigh in on what you're perceiving? Tell the truth. This is a safe zone.
And I would like to specifically actually ask Dr. Greg Lang, who's on. He's been to Terre Nere and is drinking, I believe, an older bottle of Santo Spirito. So I would love to hear any of his takes, his opinions, since he's visited the winery, since he's tasting some wines that are not on here.
Come on, doctor. We need to hear from you.
I think you should probably pop in. So
we had to take our video off there because we were kind of unstable for a while, and we were missing some great discussion. But so we're back. In the background, you can see the sign for Tenuta del Terre Nere.
Oh, yes.
So with my wife, who keeps fading in and out on the video here, we were there last October. And actually, we picked up several bottles of the San Lorenzo, 2017, I believe it was, and the 2017 Santo Spirito. So we're drinking what the Chicago people are drinking, even though we're in Michigan. And what my impressions of it compared to the one that all the Michigan people are drinking, they both have very nice cherry overtones, but the Santo Spirito to me has a really deep cherry overtones. And Patrick knows I'm a cherry scientist, so cherries are a bit dear to my heart. But I think the Santo Spirito has tremendously velvety tannins that just gives it an extra dimension that I find fantastic.
That was poetic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg.
Well, I'm interested in Christian's comments on the cellaring. Maybe I missed it when we were unstable, but the barrel aging and the cellaring of the Santo Spirito.
So Santo Spirito is just like all the other crews, stays roughly between 14 and 16 months in different type of oaks. So since we have 11.5 hectares in Santo Spirito, we have roughly 23 or 24 different vinifications of Santo Spirito. We basically move the wine over every 4 months. So what's in the barrique goes in the tonneau. So large formats and small formats. And we have only 5% of new wood. So this is to phase out, the influence of the wood. Because we have Austrian wood, we have French wood, we have Sicilian and Portuguese wood. So we have a variety of this, just to level out the influence of the wood on the wine. And in this way, by having the same playing ground for all the wines, when you taste the wines along one another, you can see the different nuances of the wines. So you have these cherry influence, as you said, for Santo Spirito, but it's very nicely balanced by a balsamic kind of tones, given by this 850 meters of altitude, while San Lorenzo is more rounded. The fruit is almost is balanced, but without any specific aromatic tones that comes out in the tasting. What we recently cleaned the Marco cellar, which has been like something that Hercules might have done for the effort that it took us to do it. And we discovered some bottles of Feudo di Mezzo 2004, and Marco was going to throw them without tasting them, because we'll be gone, definitely will be gone. So we opened it just to try them, and we actually discovered that Feudo di Mezzo has a very, very beautiful aging potential. 2004, so now it's 16 years, and the wine was incredibly young, unexpectedly young. So we are now kind of tracking down, what the development of the aging in the wines, and we've seen that. So the 15 years, say threshold has been passed with very, very nicely.
So
the Guardiola
they're figuring this out as we speak.
Yes.
And the punchline is, even Marco Degrazia was surprised at how well these wines are aging. So you don't worry about aging them. I got to tell you, there's two things you have to read from the chat room. And if anyone has to go, we won't blame you. And if anyone wants to hang, please do. But we have a great question. It's a little herd of elephants in the room. What happens to the vines if Etna erupts? And before you answer that, because I think it spills, it doesn't erupt. My friend Cindy said something so poetic. No need to compare these wines. They stand on their own and are marvelous. Their minerality and salinity make them unique. So the takeaway for me is, I'm not going to agonize over whether I'm drinking. If you go to the website, the reds are listed like Premier Cru and Grand Cru, and there will be a price differential there, and you can bet that Pre-Phylloxera will be hard to find. But you know, the nobility of the Nerello comes through. Christian, would you be kind enough to talk about the erupting of Etna and what happened?
So, well, to answer the question, if like in 1981, if a lava flow comes over, the lava flow is unstoppable. So the vines would say goodbye to everyone. So, and this happened in the 1981 lava flow. 450 hectares of soils were completely destroyed.
Did they have some warning? Were people able to get to safety? It wasn't dangerous?
No. There is actually a small warning, but this is not because of a lack of, of studies or sensors. It's because the lava underground, when it doesn't come out from the main crater, is almost unpredictable. So it can come from any chamber or any, it actually digs, when it can escape from the main crater, it actually digs the way, through the volcano. So it can come up, any place, basically. So that has a little bit of a thrill, on being an entrepreneur in the Etna. But we're lucky enough that the northern side is not the main favorite of the volcano. So most of the lava flows are on the southern east side. So we are pretty safe. Well, we want to feel like we're pretty safe there.
Well, it is now 11:30 in Sicily, and your family has probably finished eating and is bugging to get your attention, I would imagine, yeah?
Yes. My son is here and he wants to eat some ice cream.
And what is his name? You told me, Elia? I say it in Greek,
Yes, Elia, yes.
Elia.
Yes.
I'm gonna hang for a few minutes if anyone wants to hang, but there's a terrific question. Is there an effort to get more of them if we'd like to purchase them? Antoine, can you tell us what's available currently in Michigan that we can get through the Reserve Wine and Food and Plum Market? And is there more coming in? And before you answer, Christian, I'm giving you a big actual hug, not a virtual one, from Metro Detroit. You were a prince to get on with us for an hour and a half. Am I right, everyone?
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
You have a lot of fans in Michigan and Chicago, in the Midwest of the United States.
Once this is all over, this strange times will be soon over. I'm sure that Marco misses, going back to the U.S. Since, as you know, he's basically indigenous. But will soon come over.
But you're our friend now, so we'll hold the thought of seeing Marco, but we will expect to see you. So, grazie.
Thank you.
And,
grazie a voi.
Oh, no, thank you, Christian. It was really special. But everyone, don't go away. Antoine's going to talk to us about availability and what else is coming in.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Ciao.
Bye, Christian. Thank you.
Grazie. Ciao.
Ciao. Well, I sometimes start these conversations by saying there's good news and bad news.
Sorry to
there is good news and bad news.
Everyone's attention.
As the direct importer for Terre Nere in Michigan, we literally take every drop of their wines we can get, and we ask for more. We rarely get more because they have, and I mean, as you can tell for anybody who tasted the wines tonight, these are the price to quality ratio, just how great these wines are. We're lucky to work with them. We're lucky to have great partners who, in Reserve, in Plum Market, who can get them to you. These wines, if you see them on the shelves and you love them, you should buy them now, because there is very little of this wine available. Literally every drop that was allocated to the stores and to Reserve is already in their properties. We don't.
And what was the most rare wine on this chunk, right, Patrick? Was the Rosado. So you think
yes,
is no big deal. right?
We pulled some strings and played puppet master to make sure that we had one of the crew reds, which are always released in the spring along with the Bianco and Rosado, that would, cover everyone who could possibly get into the tasting. But literally, I mean, in some of these crews, I think at the Fiera di Mezzo, we get, I think 96 bottles this year. Some years we get 60, some years we get, 36. I mean, these are very, very limited, and it's really what the vintage will give them. There was mention of the pre-phylloxera. We didn't get any of that wine this year. I think there was one 6-pack that was already promised to someone.
I want you to know that I bought it from a competitive retailer because we were out, and I have a bottle I'm staring at lovingly. Patrick's going to tell us his availability at the Reserve, but I will tell you, Chicago folks, you should be licking your chops because the 18s haven't come into Chicago yet. They're still working on 17s. So you have better availability in Chicago at this moment than you do in Michigan. Patrick, what are you sitting on?
So at Reserve, we have enough of the Etna Bianco to pour by the glass for a little while at least. We have about 3.5 cases, including some 2018 actually, and about a case and a half now of the 2019 as well. Of the wines that we tasted today, we have, I believe, 12 bottles. We have a full case of Rosado left. We have 6 bottles of the Fiera di Mezzo left. And we have 12 bottles of another cru, the Guardiola from 2018.
That's the one with the steep terracing. And I'm showing you also, the Plum Market website will keep this 3-pack on for a week, though we're probably going to run out of the rosés. But if you're interested in anything, especially the Etna Rosso that we did not have in Michigan tonight, and the Santo Spirito, you can ask at your local Plum Market, and Antoine will let the wine team leaders know, or you can just say, what do you got from Terre Nere? Did I cut you off, Patrick?
Well, I'll finish by saying we have 5 bottles of 2017 pre-phylloxera. And so now that you all know, I'm sure those are going to go very quickly.
Sell it.
And I'm going to ask you, I'm sorry, I used to be a well-mannered restaurant person, but I would like to know what you're selling this for.
I'll message you privately.
You'll message me privately, because I may want one of those.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
I have to tell you, so this finishes our current collaboration between me and Patrick, aka Plum Market, and the Reserve, but we'll look forward to doing more. Mike, do you have anything to say in terms of the Etna Bianco? Mike is our wine team leader at our Ann Arbor West, and I just love his comments. If you don't mind weighing in as we're just hanging out.
No, I think that, as I mentioned before, I raced home from work, and they are, as Patrick described, the salinity, I get an ashy component to the Bianco. I just think it's Burgundy-like, but it is distinctive, and I think they're fantastic wines. This is the 2019. I think they're fantastic. I think they'll age well, and I've been a fan of Mount Etna for a while now, and continue to get the message out, if you will. I will say we have on the west side of Ann Arbor, still have the Rosé, still have Bianco, still have the Rosso, and the Mezzo, about 4 bottles of the Mezzo left. So we have some, but these are all fantastic. This is, Terre Nere is one of my favorite producers. And as Antoine said, if you can find it, get it, because they're not going to last long. And every year they go quickly. So once they're gone until the next vintage. So.
Well, Patrick, we're going to have to dream up another collaboration.
I'm in. Because
this is too easy and too much fun. And I think we normally finish by saying, to your health or buy in several different languages, but I think tonight we should just say mille grazie to everyone for your company and ciao. Would you agree with that, Pat?
Absolutely, absolutely. Mille grazie, ciao. Thank you, everybody. This is, again, I have been telling everybody that I encounter that I'm blown away by the wines, but also the relationships that have to happen to get this much of them.
Right.
And so it's a real collision of like the best parts of the wine world, where you have a delicious thing physically, but then you also have beautiful people to share it with, and that's what really gives it an extra layer of meaning. And so it's kind of overwhelming to taste these wines with people that I love, with great people, and to share this experience even in such a difficult time in our world. So
but with the intimacy of this screen that I find very touching. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah. So
Thank you, Madeline.
good night, everybody. We'll be in touch with our next couple of tastings. It's we're going to keep doing them because we love it, and it's a fun opportunity. So,
And I'll send a recap to everyone, but it will include plum market accessibility. But please,
Thank you.
Rapids, you're going to reach out to Patrick in terms of what wine you can get without driving 2 hours, right?
definitely. And if Plum Market runs out, we do ship all over Michigan. So
Thanks, Patrick, for getting my wine in time.
oh, absolutely. I'm glad it worked out, Bob. I'm glad it worked out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Cheers,
Patrick.
everyone.
Madeline.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Nostrovia.
Zdrowie.